I'm not a communication specialist. I'm the project manager of R2S here in Brazil. So that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about R2S specifically and how we are dealing with communication. It's very important to understand that R2S is not consumer-orientated, it's industry and producer-orientated. That's how the moderator said. Well, but before I start, I want to ask you a question. How many of you know or heard about R2S here? Please raise your hand. 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, we are not succeeding with our communication. Don't worry. The first time I heard RTRS, I thought it was a Greek company working here in Brazil with sustainable soy, which is not the case. It's the acronym of Roundtable Responsible Soy. And we have the mission to encourage present and future soy production to be responsible, reduce environmental and social impact through the implementation, development of a standard, which is already in place, and the commitment of our members to this standard. This little timeline here of R2S, we are a quite young organization. R2S was created in 2006. Its standard was approved in 2010, and the first producers started to certificate in 2011. So since then, 3 years' time, we have reached 2 million tons of certified producers all around the world. And we are heading for 3 million next year. And today we have over 165 members. For those who don't know how R2S works, we have 5 principles that define responsible soy production. It's legal compliance, responsible working conditions, responsible community relations, environmental responsibility, good agricultural practices. This is something that was agreed on between industry, producers, and civil society in 2010, and it needs to be fulfilled by the implementation and measure of 100 indicators. And now you must ask, 100 indicators, there is a lot of indicators. But it's progressive. You don't need to be with this in just 1 year. You have 3 to 4 years to implement this at your farm. The government system works in a similar way as the Global Roundtable for Sustainable Beef. We have a General Assembly, Executive Board, Secretariat, Technical Unit, Communication Unit, and Administration Unit, and we have different working groups. I will talk more about these working groups later. These are some of our members. You should know most of them. Where do we certify today, R2S? We have producers mostly in South America, but also in the United States, India, and China. Brazil is the country with most certification, almost 1.5 million tons. And we also have quite a lot in Argentina. USA has just started. We have 6 smaller farms up in actually in Wisconsin. Some certified R2S certified producer there. Here are the farms in Brazil. So you can see there are more or less 300 farms. So each dot doesn't represent one farm, but there are quite a lot of farms in Mato Grosso, in the state of Mato Grosso, and also in the south of Brazil, in the state of Paraná. Also some in the middle parts of Brazil. There is the good news. We have a growing demand for R2S certified soy, especially coming from Europe. They're more or less, the Dutch are pushing it quite heavily with Unilever and the Dutch Transition Fund. They have committed to these numbers here. So in the upcoming years, we expect to have a demand of 5 million tons of R2S soy. And these are some other companies, maybe from Scandinavia and Sweden, and also committed to R2S soy. Well, so to the subject of this presentation, successful sustainability communication. I was quite surprised when I received the invitation to come here and talk about communication. The first reason it's because the R2S is quite a young organization, and the second one is that is the reason I mentioned in the beginning. It was we are not orientated toward consumer. We are more oriented to industry and producer. And in terms of of what we have certified today, 2 million tons. In market share, it's not so much. But after thinking a little bit, our success here in communication, we have been able to close the gap in the soy value chain in terms of communication, increasing trust in comparison to what in the situation we had 10 or 15 years ago when we were at war with each other. Well, environmental organization publishing this image from Amazon, soy and so on. But now we are much more together on this, on how to produce in a responsible way. So the question we ask, what is successful sustainability communication? Is it this? Maybe this? Or this? I don't know. What do you think? I like this one. Or maybe this one. Well, I think all are quite great communication strategies. But as a roundtable, thinking as a roundtable, not as a company or as an organization, we are not out there just to increase awareness about a product or about a subject. We are in this business because we want also behavioral change in the system, in the whole soy value chain. We want to change the behavior of the actors. So a good way to visualizing this is to use this metaphor of a ball in a basin, where we have two basins. This is where we are now. This is a soy value chain. This is where we want to get, but there's a huge climb periods and thresholds. So how do we get the ball there? Of course, awareness campaign helps move the ball up in this climb, but it's hardly to get it over the threshold by just using awareness campaigns. So one way, very good way, not the only way to get the ball here, is to use communication strategy. And my point here is that you have to use different communication strategy at each phase of the development of the time development. You cannot use the same communication strategy for already certified producers as you use for non-certified producers. So you need to think of this when you design your communication strategy as a roundtable. This is my recommendation to a roundtable. Then there's another important issue I like also to point out that we at RTRS think it's this myth of sustainability. What's this? Well, for example, the first myth, the sustainability is all about the environment. And I think this is a message that has gone out there and in the previous presentation. It's that it's all about the forest or this little animal that we need to save. I meet a lot of producers here in Brazil, and they say to me that we are already sustainable. We are following the forest law. We are following the environmental law. We don't need certification. Now we need to find ways to communicate that sustainability is more than just environmental aspects, about social and economical aspects as well. Sorry. The second myth, it's that sustainability is the destination. That we have come to an end and that's enough. No, it's continuous improvement, as Charlie and Kim talked about. It's an endless journey, right? So we need also to find ways to communicate this. And this one is this myth here is that it costs more. No way, we don't want to pay more for sustainability. That's also not true. You can communicate, you can make a communication campaign today with social media quite cheaply and with a high impact. Charlie also talked about this. We are not rational. We want to be, but we are not. We are guided by values. So this is another thing we think about. We need to think about when we design our communication strategy. Storytelling is very effective. And this is a classical one. Use fear as a way to make people act. It does not work quite well, I don't think, in companies or in roundtables. And there are many more, I guess. But we need to be aware of this when we design our communication strategy and sustainability. Well, we live in a situation today that Facts are completely uncertain, as Charlie also mentioned. On one day we received this report that there is climate change, and the other day there comes a report denying everything. What should we believe on? It's completely mess. But stakes are high, values are in dispute, and action are urgent. So we need to do something. We need to create. So we at the Roundtable Responsible, so we hired this guy some years ago to help us to design our. No, just kidding. But he's very good at designing products that in this complex world. Well, and he said it's a lot of time people don't know what they want until you get it to them. So be creative. That's my advice. Have courage to create new products, new communication strategies. So let's go back to the timeline and see how we have worked with communication strategies. We have the first phase here with institutional build-up. We didn't work so much on getting out a message of what is R2S to the public or to the industry, the producer. We worked more on policy and gender-oriented communication and internal working groups with producer, industry, and civil society. It was more inward communication strategy. The second phase started with the approval of the R2S standards in 2010. Then our communication strategy as a roundtable was focused on supply, on producers, with workshops, storytelling, positive reinforcement, the benefits of certifications. Well, which are the benefits, not just the costs. And the last phase, we are focused on increasing the demand of R2S soy. So our communication strategy is much about message simplification, accessibility, transparency, and so on. As you can see in all three phases here, we have working groups involved all the time. R2S, as other roundtables, works a lot with shared values, with people engaging together, and creating this sense of community. It's very important to get this in trust building. Well, I'm not going to talk so much about context analysis, what we did in the last phase. We have an external review of the market to understand what the market think about certification schemes and so on. Media monitoring, website survey, and we did an internal analysis as well. We are trying always to evolve as an institution, as a roundtable. We try to evolve. Message simplification. We take the complex, for example, the chain of custody is very complex. Nobody understands if I mapped it with these different. So we try to make it simple. It looks simple on our manuals and guides and our web page. We have different tools you can access to transform very complex things in for example, the soy print calculator. You can measure your soy footprint, right? And you can calculate how much credits, R2S credits you need to buy to compensate that. Very, very good for industry and the demand side to understand how much their impact on the environment. And it works a lot of transparency. You can go in and see which producers are certified and how, and you can even see the audit reports and where they're located and so on. This is very important, transparency. Institutional videos, educational, not very simple. You can all go into our website and see these materials. It's available there. Newsletters and so on, and social networks. Some years ago we started with Twitter and so on. Yeah. So we have different working groups around the world. This is the Brazilian one, which was born 2013, where members comes and engage on different issues. And this is what I told you earlier. It's about creating shared value and engaging people and creating this sense of community. And they automatically go back to their companies or organization and bring the message back. So they are kind of agents of change. It's very important in communication to have this engagement in roundtables. And we have one group as well in Europe that was created this year that have the similar task. So conclusion for roundtables. As a roundtable, you need to tailor your communication strategy to different circumstances and contexts. Attention to the myths of sustainability that are out there. Make the complex look simple and work on accessibility. Evaluate and adapt.